Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is always, pretty straightforward. We take complex source material notes, articles, you name it, and we try to distill it into something really clear and actionable for you.
And today we are digging into something called the HAK1M executive narrative.
Right. It's this very structured 12-post series on LinkedIn, and it's presented as a full-on system for stabilizing a company when things start to, well, fall apart.
It's more than just content marketing. It's really an operational manual. They even call it the structured version ready for execution. It's aimed right at leaders who are feeling that gridlock.
And the whole thing kicks off at this one specific moment. It's in post 1, and they call it the origin point. It's that moment of rupture, when the leadership system breaks right when the company needs to grow.
Think of it like hitting a wall. A company's scaling up, and suddenly the internal systems just can't keep up. That's the failure point, and that's where HAK1M says they come in.
So for our deep dive today, we're going to focus on two, I think, really critical pieces of their method. First is their diagnostic approach. They draw this sharp line between value leakage and execution breakdown.
And second, we'll get into their action plan. It's surprisingly simple, centered on this thing called the B's strategy execution cell.
And it's all grounded in real examples from the Saudi market, which makes it super interesting.
Yeah, the whole goal seems to be replacing the illusion of a leadership problem with a real system-level diagnosis that's all about moving fast.
Okay, let's start with that diagnosis because, as they argue in post 3, if you're fixing the wrong problem, you're just burning time and morale. They ask this central question, what actually breaks?
And the answer they give isn't a person, it's a thing, a system. This is what they call unraveling the illusion.
The illusion being that it's someone's fault.
Exactly. The first instinct is always to find someone to blame. That usually leads you to what they call value leakage.
Okay, so what is that? Like, give me an example.
Value leakage is the symptom. It's the missed sales targets, the poor customer reviews, high employee turnover. It's the stuff you can see and measure easily.
Right, so if I'm a leader and my sales are down, I think, my sales team is leaking value. They need more training. Or worse, I need a new team.
Precisely. But HAK1M's whole point is that value leakage is just the fever. The actual disease, the real cause, is execution breakdown.
Execution breakdown, so that's more structural.
It's a failure in the processes, the systems, the communication channels, all the plumbing that's supposed to turn a good strategy into actual results.
Wow, that is a powerful distinction because if you blame the team for value leakage, you just crush morale. But if you fix the execution breakdown,
the whole system gets better almost instantly.
Yeah.
And they're really direct about this in the source material. They say to the leader, the problem is not you, it is the system.
that must be a huge relief for a leader to hear.
It is. It reframes the entire problem away from personalities and toward a structural, fixable issue. It stops you from chasing symptoms.
Yeah. Can you walk me through another quick example just to make that really concrete? How could a leader mix those two up?
Sure. Let's take a big construction firm. They keep missing their project deadlines. That's the value leakage.
Okay, the visible problem.
Yeah. The gut reaction is to fire the project managers. Maybe buy some fancy new software. That's treating the symptom.
But the real problem might be somewhere else entirely.
Right. An execution breakdown diagnosis might find that, say, the finance department's process for releasing funds is so slow that it paralyzes work on site for days. Or maybe the strategic planners are using metrics that are just impossible for the operations team to hit.
So the project manager is doing their job, but the system is setting them up to fail.
Exactly. The failure isn't skill, it's systemic misalignment.
Okay, so that clarity is key. But hold on, before they even get to the diagnosis in post 3, they have this whole section in post 2 about awareness. How does that fit in?
It's a very logical flow. They say you have to read the situation first. That reading leads to awareness, which then creates clarity. You can't see the execution breakdown if you aren't even aware of how your own systems work.
So perception before movement.
Perception before panicked movement. They force the leader to stop, look, and understand the system before they try to fix it. It builds the trust needed for what comes next.
Which is the actual execution.
Right. Once the system is diagnosed, once everyone agrees it's an execution breakdown problem, the whole narrative shifts to action. And the path they lay out is, it's incredibly simple.
Well, it has to be, right? If you're stuck in gridlock, the last thing you want is another super complex 5-year plan.
Exactly right. So post 9 just lays it out as a single, simple line. Diagnose, decide a move.
That's it.
That's it. It's all about cutting out the bureaucracy, the committees, the endless meetings that happen between decision and action.
That simplicity is definitely the hook. But how do they actually power the move part? This is where they bring in that B cell, right? The strategy execution cell from post 6.
Yeah.
I have to ask, what is this B cell? And is it really any different from, a standard agile team or a cross-functional squad? Or is this just clever rebranding?
That's a great question, and I think the difference is in its mandate. It is extremely focused. The objective is, and they're explicit about this, execution without theorizing.
Execution without theorizing. I like that.
These work cells, as they call them, have a simple structure that is designed to actively bypass the usual corporate tendency to talk a problem to death.
So it's not just agile, it's almost anti-bureaucratic by its very nature.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's designed to sideline those heavy academic strategy frameworks. In so many big companies, the people who write the strategy are completely disconnected from the people who have to implement it.
And that creates endless delays.
Endless. The B cell is designed to be a low-friction unit. It's small, it's focused, and it's empowered to act based on that initial system diagnosis.
What about its structure makes it so low friction? Is it just the mandate?
The mandate is a huge part of it. A normal team has to report up, justify its budget, coordinate with 10 other departments. That's where all the theorizing and politics creep in.
I see.
The B cell gets its parameters from that initial diagnosis and is told, go fix that specific execution breakdown point. The clarity of that focus prevents scope creep and all the maneuvering that kills momentum.
And crucially, this isn't just a concept floating around. The sources say it's backed by a specific example from the Saudi market.
And that grounding is everything. For any methodology like this, especially one that's so direct, you have to prove it works in the real world, in the local environment.
It builds trust.
It builds massive trust. By providing Saudi market examples, HAK1M is showing that this simple cell can cut through the specific cultural and logistical challenges that companies there actually face. It proves it's not a textbook theory, it's ready to go.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you have the simple execution engine, the B cell, but it has to be powered by something more sophisticated behind the scenes. And that's where they introduced the strategy transformers in post 7.
Yes, the SX, or strategy transformers, they're key. Think of them as the methodology factory. Their job is to take these rigorous global business frameworks and translate them.
Translate them into what?
Into an Arabic Islamic operating system.
Yeah.
It's a very explicit effort to make sure the solutions resonate culturally and structurally, but without losing any of the analytical rigor.
And they mention a specific blend, a hybrid McKinsey plus Abu Saif. That sounds like a fascinating combination.
It is. You're essentially taking the world-class analytical discipline of a framework like McKinsey's.
The structure, the data, all of that.
All of that. And you're merging it with what the Abu Saif component represents, which is deep, localized operational wisdom and leadership philosophy.
So it's not just an intellectual fit, it's an operational and cultural one too.
That's the entire idea. This hybrid approach is what gives them the confidence to go in and pinpoint exactly where performance is eroding.
Which brings us right back to that erosion. Post 10 asks, where does performance truly leak inside companies? And they identify these 2 failure points. What are they?
So while they call them the 2 failure points broadly, if you read the whole narrative, they seem to boil down to 2 main areas where execution breakdown happens.
Okay.
First is the failure of alignment between strategic planning and operational delivery, the classic ivory tower problem.
That's very good.
The second is the failure to maintain momentum during a period of change or transition. That's the moment the leader hits that origin point we talked about at the very beginning.
So they're tying it all together. They link the abstract idea of a system failure directly to these specific measurable gaps where the diagnose, decide, move path gets jammed.
Absolutely. And by calling them real cases that are suited for the Saudi context, they're taking it out of the realm of theory. They're not just selling you a diagnosis, they're giving you the coordinates for the surgery.
And the final piece of this whole 12-post narrative, post 11, is about the payoff, the impact guide.
Right. They frame the whole thing as an impact guide that is built on a very simple, very powerful before and after comparison.
Show, don't tell.
Exactly. The whole narrative is designed to prove that by stepping in at the origin point, correctly diagnosing execution breakdown, and then deploying this low-friction B cell, they can deliver a measurable, documented transformation. It's a case for system repair over just, heroic leadership.
This has been a really fascinating look into the HAK1M framework. To kind of boil it all down, the key nugget for you to take away is this. Stop blaming people and start fixing the system. Understand that crucial difference between value leakage, which is the symptom,
An execution breakdown, which is the root cause.
and remember, the path to fixing it is intentionally simple. Diagnose, decisive move.
That simplicity is what makes it work. And it's all powered by the B's Strategy Execution Cell, a tool designed specifically to cut through the friction of corporate theory and bureaucracy.
So, given that this whole system is built on this idea of prioritizing simple, action-oriented cells over these big, complex planning structures, it does raise an important question for you, our listener. If your organization were to really, truly empower a strategy execution cell like B's and give it that freedom to execute without theorizing what entrenched cultural beliefs or structural habits would you have to actively get rid of?
Think about the complexity your organization currently values, maybe even celebrates. And ask yourself what you would need to let go of tomorrow to embrace that kind of radical simplicity.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time.